Okay, good evening. 6:04 on this beautiful September 26, 2023, and I call this meeting to order, and I accidentally hit make it official there. I call this meeting to order there. Next item is roll call, establishment of quorum.
Benito Hernandez present.
Diego Perez present.
Alexandra Flores present.
Mayor Rick Vidal present. For the record, we have two commissioners out, Mayor Pro Tem Garcia and Mr. Javier Ramirez. A motion to excuse?
I'll motion to excuse.
Second.
Thank you. A motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. The next item, invocation and pledge of allegiance. Our heads. Leave Mr. Hernandez.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Lord, thank you for another day of life and all your blessings. I ask you to continue protecting our first responder, family, friends, neighbors, to continue blessing us with the great health. We thank you, Lord, for all you give, the food we eat, the life we live. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item, certified posting of agenda.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, council members, the agenda was duly posted as required by state law, at least 72 hours prior to the start of the meeting. It's posted by our city manager.
Thank you. I didn't see public comment, but,
No one said.
okay, thank you. Under first item, to call, under new business, 6.1, update on Palmview sanitation program.
Mayor, for that, we're going to call on Cesar Gutierrez to give us an update, and we're going to put a slide up on the screen as well. I know we're all excited about our sanitation program going live here pretty soon. So, Cesar?
Good afternoon. Yes, just to let you know, we're gonna get started on Monday already, going live, brush and garbage pickup. So,
Is everything ready?
I'm here.
We're good?
Yes, it's here. Yeah, we're good. I do want to thank you all for the efforts and for the opportunity to work with the city. Not that I'm leaving, I have to say. It's been very good. You know, it's an experience that I've always enjoyed to do this department. I really look forward to getting it going and seeing the product you're going to get. It's going to be like the city has been doing it by itself all this time, like I always said. It should feel that way. So now we have all the trucks. I don't know if you all saw the trucks already. We sent some pictures.
Yes.
With that, we'll start with the site. Of course, that's our main residential truck, that one of the first trucks that we got that will be in service come Monday. If we go to the next slide, we have our brush truck. Of course, we got it right before those storm events, so it came in handy. We've already put it to use. That'll be in operations come October as well, as we do brush once a time monthly at each resident. The bottom picture to your right is actually also a backup brush truck, but it's sort of roll-offs, actual roll-offs. So we're going to be using that with initiatives throughout the years. We do the tire drop-offs, trash pickups. We've done them here before, but now we're going to target other areas, either in neighborhoods or on the south side at the Showers Ward substation, where we now have the ability to drop the roll-off, leave it there, come back in a week and pick it up with that truck. And again, it serves as a brush truck for backup for heavy days, or if we get calls or we get hit with another storm, God forbid, we have both of these trucks ready to go and in operation. On the next slide, right around the corner, we have our commercial services. Top left is our commercial truck, the Big Mac truck that just came in last week, ready to go come January 1st.
I apologize. On that roll-off, would we be able to, or would there be a need, or do you see a need come in the near or later future for buying a second roll-off?
I would say yes. We are transitioning right now. We're doing the garbage, we're doing the front end, the commercial businesses, and the next will be our roll-off. Like Mr. Leo was mentioning, the roll-off truck will be, emergency, that's a big one, and I know that Mr. Leo was really, when we got an opportunity to actually price this truck and actually get it here, You know, he was excited because he's always saying that's a good emergency truck. But if we do want to service like compactors, like HEB has one, we do need a standard roll-up truck for that because the arm has to go within the truck because it's attached to it, and we cannot place it on top of the actual compactor. So yes, we're going to have to look into that. But once we get the commercial going, we'll go into the industrial section of the trash, which will be the roll-offs, any businesses that might need it, any homes or any subdivision, we can offer that. You'll recall you all bought 5 the 30-yard roll-offs, the actual dumpsters. Those are the ones that Mr. Leo is mentioning that we can place at subdivisions for those pickups, special.
Yeah.
Whenever we need to do some cleanups.
And once we get the commercial going, then, right, as I said, the industrial roll-offs where we still rely on Republic for that. Somebody pulls a permit, they're going to be doing new construction, they need to have a roll-off. Right now, they work with Republic, but once we get ours going, then they'll have city roll-offs that we'll drop off at that station, they fill it up, and then we pick it up as needed. Just like you saw at the Wendy's job site, they had a roll-off back then. So pretty soon, hopefully early next year to mid next year, those will be Palmview, cans as well.
Let's keep those lines of communication open, and as we go through this year, we'll see how we can best meet the needs of the department, and the city.
Absolutely. The bottom right is the special truck that we showed a video of it in action. It's a front end loader, which means it usually picks up commercial trucks through the front, but at the same time it has a special connection called a Corrado can. That's that can in the front. It comes down and then the arm still comes to the side so it can pick up residential. So it's unique in its dual service. It can back up either your residential or your commercial. And once that can comes down, you don't have to pick it up and put it down every single time. It comes down, the driver goes down the neighborhood, picks up the things. Once it's full, unloads it, and then brings it back down. And while it's traveling and it's going to the dump site, it brings it back down. It self-closes itself. It's covered up. You don't have to take it off and put it on and take it off and put it on. So very versatile. And again, it's gonna have dual purposes for commercial and residential. So right now, that's gonna be our residential backup truck. The last slide. Of course, on top, you see our fleet. We're gonna be working on some, Ms. Irma's out sick today, but she's gonna be working with the video guy that we have to make some videos to showcase our fleet. As you can see, our fleet, give credit to Cesar, he even put that ambulance that we had surplus, he put it to use, and it's there as part of the fleet. And then at the bottom left, you see our sanitation team, our 2 drivers. Sergio who's not here today, but we have our 2 drivers and our clerks as well. And we're going to be bringing them to a future city council meeting so you can get to know them. But again, this is the team that's going to start providing the services on Monday. Always got to give credit where credit is due. And I think we were lucky to get Cesar Gutierrez on our team. Very unique experience. A lot of people can say that they've worked in sanitation, but how many people can say, I was there when we started sanitation, actual transition. And he did it not once, but twice, in Mission and in Weslaco. So to have somebody with that unique experience, I think is very rare. So we're fortunate to have him. And sure enough, the experience I think has shown, that speaks for itself. We're in this position. He, asked him, hey, are you ready? Are you nervous? She's like, no, we're good to go. I'm a little bit nervous, but to see him have that confidence gives me confidence because, again, he's done it before. He's done it a few times. So looking forward to that. And of course, to the entire sanitation team. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Cesar. Thank you for all your work, and just to inform our community, everything is going to stay as scheduled, correct? Like whatever day they're used to taking their trash out, it's going to remain the same, even the times. Perfect. Okay, and that includes brush pickup. Okay.
So you're
Okay.
talking about the schedules, if the schedules are going
Sí.
to remain the same?
Yeah.
So we have
Including the brush.
I know I posted something, through the families to make sure that they have the bins, the new ones. They didn't get responses whether they are still running on the old Republic bins or not.
Yeah, right now, 100% they are.
They're ours.
Whoever has an account with the city of Palm
Great.
has one.
And I know it's taking a long time. I know I wanted to start in July. Back then, we wanted for the goal to be in July because but it's a big initiative. It took a lot of planning, and when we started getting the trucks, we know we needed resources, we needed personnel, we needed experience, we need preparation, practice, and just to make sure that the people in Palmview would benefit from the service. And not only that, because they feel more, I would say, intimate relationship with us. If something is going wrong, they can always call us and going back and service those properties that, for whatever reason, they're missed. And I know that I saw a truck, South La Homa, picking up some trash brush that was skipped for some reason. So now we don't have to call anymore, we can do it ourselves. So thank you, Cesar, for having that service for the city of Palmview. And hopefully there's bigger plans after this, but this is a big initiative, big initiative. Thank you all, thank you, Michael, for supporting the idea, and the commission for, it's a big risk. It's still a big risk. It's still a big risk because there's a lot of funding that went into this project, a lot of funding, but we're hoping that revenues will come forth and people will see the services and more.
You mentioned the risk, and that we did want to start in July, and the risk was that.
Yes.
We didn't have the spare truck.
Yeah,
So now it's like move forward, I mean,
Yeah.
there's no excuse.
that's good.
Yeah, so we're ready to go.
That's great. We're patient as well, and the people have shown a lot of patience as well. Thank you for everything you do.
I apologize for being late.
For the record, 6:15, Mr. Garcia is here. And thank you for picking up the ones that we had lost. A lot of once we started getting the new trash cans, that people that had not paid or were kind of felt they didn't have to pay, now wanted trash cans, so that helped as well. So thank you for your efforts and for being out there and your due diligence, so that helps.
What's the limit that we can have, the resident can have, just two? Two containers, that's it? They can have,
It's up to them how much they want to
they
pay.
can have more than two?
Yeah.
For a household?
Or-
Okay, I was asked that, I didn't know.
Yeah, yeah, there's an actual schedule how much you can pay for up to 4. Once they come in and do an application here with the city, they'll find out if they want 1 or 2, the numbers are there for them to say, okay, because I want 3 or 1, 2. I can only afford 1.
Well, good job, too. It looks like everything's falling into place, right?
Yes, sir. Finally, yes.
Yes. And if they have any questions, anything that they need to inquire, let's say maybe, I don't know, we missed a house and they want to know when it's going to get picked up, is that just the same number, call City Hall and there's an
Yeah, same
extension?
number. Right now, with the staff that we showed, that we, we're very confident that they can, address the call.
Okay.
And then that's why, Sergio is the person that's going to be, we're actually doing we still have another truck that we're putting a common lift on there. So in case it get missed, we'll put it in the truck and we'll take it to where the driver is at.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
Same day. It's not gonna be,
Sounds good. I think they're going to like that.
And for the public, that main number is 956-432-0300, 956-432-0300, and there's an option to press for sanitation trash.
Awesome. Yeah, Mayor?
Hey, item 6, any other questions on the update? Thank you, good input. Thank you, sir. Continue to get this ball moving now. 6.2, discussion of possible action to purchase a front-end loader and dumpster from Waste Quip by board.
So move for approval.
Motion?
A second.
Okay, questions? Can you give us a little update?
Yeah,
Briefly.
yeah, we're currently looking into taking over the commercial account, the existing in our city, and will require us to purchase these dumpsters to collect the waste produced by the businesses. So these dumpsters will be that, and they're for the amount of $252,598. And that would cover all commercial. We have almost 230, 240 accounts. Some of them have 2 dumpsters, some have 1. And it all depends how many times they want service per week. And we do have a chart that says how much it's gonna be for a 2-yarder. And if you want it for the whole week, and it gives you a price.
And for the record, we had a budget already allocated for this. We're not using any new monies, we're not borrowing money. This has already been allocated for, and we're good with our budget. Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Liu, and staff, Annette and Areli, and everybody who will help keep us in line with our
Believe me,
budget.
everybody has
And our
really,
council
really
too,
put their
for,
input in this department.
yeah, for doing the input, our council too as well.
And this commercial will start, hoping it would be.
Well, now that we have the truck, I mean, if we had the cans, we would have started.
Yes.
So we're looking, because the transition is different for this. We have to replace the dumpsters. So we're looking at January.
More or less, yeah.
to start.
Gives a few months to.
Yeah.
We're good with the budget to buy those as well too, right?
Yeah, I work with Republic in the other cities where I can start on January, even though I can still use their cans while I switch them out.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're gonna, with this cans, it's gonna take maybe like 6 to 8 weeks to get here, the whole order, and then I'll start switching them out. So come January, it's our cans, their cans, it's not gonna matter.
Okay.
Because I will start on January.
Even if our cans are not there, we'll still be able to
Even
provide the
like we did
service
with the trash bins, where Republic was servicing our cans, they'll do the same for the,
for us. Okay. Great.
so that's that transition there, yes.
Do we have an approximate date of how long this service will pay itself, or like where we'll be able to pay off the investment? How many years of trash pickup will that take?
We have the data that's going to show projections, and we know that it's going to cover the expenses, projecting that it'll have, in our budget that we adopted, an additional $100,000 transferred from sanitation program to the general fund to help us, and not to mention another, I think, 150 that stayed within sanitation to pay off the debt that for the trucks that were borrowed. So it is paying for itself. There should be excess revenues. While these are projections, we want to get a year's worth of data
Yeah,
and see what actual
see.
numbers are at, and then I think we can put that together as far as like a payback
Yeah,
period.
but I don't think you'll actually ever end paying everything. I mean, you're gonna be improving, getting new
Sí,
equipment,
sí, sí.
right?
Yes, we're
But
going to
it's-
want to put money away for future capital
Maybe-
projects, so we don't have to borrow.
maybe What we
Yeah,
put in,
what we put in, I guess.
Yeah.
yeah, that 3, 4, 5 years, we'll see here in the next year.
Because we're gonna have to be buying more trucks, right?
Yes, and that's the plan, to put revenues aside from every year towards future capital purchases, so we already have money put aside, so to speak, to buy new trucks, which,
So we're looking at about 2 million total investment, and see how long it'll take us to get 2 million back. But like Mr. Garcia says, there's still more
See, it's a
investment.
constant investment.
One of
But
the
it's a-
questions, I guess we're going back to this, one of the questions that some of the community members are saying, what about if they're outside the city and they live in a place where there's quite a bit of houses and they want those services? Because they might not have the full service, they might only have trash with another company and they don't have brush. What about if they agree to saying, we have somewhere close to Palmview that is not Palmview, and could they come and apply for trash cans and have us service those people, even though they're not in the Palmview city limits?
possibly, we would need to coordinate with the county. We're assuming that these areas are like in the county jurisdiction, and we have had discussions with the county. The county's trying to do their sanitation program,
Okay.
and they asked us for their support. And one of the things that we said, look, if it's like in our ETJ or like our fire district, you know how we go to 3 Mile Line? So you know what? I talked to Cesar about that. If it's just a little extra, really close to our boundaries, can we still do it with one truck that we have in rotation? And I think the answer to that is yes. So one, if we can get support from the neighborhood or the street that we're talking about, and two, we would just need to get permission from the county and have it interlocal, just like we have with them. We service their area for ambulance. We service their area for fire. Same thing with the trash.
Just want to leave it open for people to come in and
See,
gather
it-
information.
It being worth the investment, a certain amount of houses, or Cesar, you all can do the math and see, if it's gonna be worth the,
Sí se puede.
Sí se puede.
Sí se puede.
good way of.
Good attitude.
That's a good, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, good way of putting it through. Okay, so we had a motion and a second, good discussion. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Item 6.3, discussion and possible action to approve ordinance 2311-0, amending the master fee schedule to include changes and additions for the 23-24 fiscal year. Staffed by Mr. Leo.
Real quickly, Mayor, these are what we discussed in our budget workshops. We talked about the fees, make sure that we're comparable and competitive with other cities. So this includes the revisions to some of the permit fees, inspection fees, animal control fees, the sport registration fees, and the library fees. And you should have a handout that includes the fees themselves. But again, this is what we covered in the workshop.
I'll make a motion.
Second? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any questions for the record? Any other questions? All right, motion carries. All in favor, wait, I already said A, motion carries. Okay. We got it. Next, item 6.4, discussion and possible action to approve purchase of 208/120 volt UPS battery and battery cabinet in the amount of $23,944.75. A motion, second?
A second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody
Can you
opposed?
give us a
Yeah.
brief?
Real quick, during the major weather events, the equipment that we have is at risk of going down, and since this is our police dispatch center, our 911 service center, we want to make sure that we have sufficient equipment to back up during those events, because we have been at risk before. So Chief worked together with Mario, our IT coordinator, identified the equipment needed to make sure that we're protected.
Hey, so would that, just, and that's another one, I know we have a generator back here, right? That has nothing to do with the generator?
No,
How long would the battery last? In this,
Full use, about 4 hours.
4 hours?
But those servers, they're never at full use, they're at minimum maybe 20%, so that's actually even further extended. And with the generator, that, coupled together, it can go even further than that.
And this is coming out of, general fund, police, or,
At this time, General Fund, yeah. We tried. New budget, new year, so he's starting fresh. He said he's going to pay it back.
any other questions?
So this is for, primarily for the police department, or,
In all reality, and I think Mario can attest to this, this is not only for the police department, but it serves also like all the servers on the city side, and also to run the entire,
oh, okay, for like the, yes, for the
Yeah,
network.
that's what we talk in the workshop,
okay.
right? What we talk in the workshop? Is that the same thing?
we talk about the cloud.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
So this one's primarily, one of the more important functions is to keep the telecommunications center and the dispatch running.
Going.
And what's the warranty? Here's another good question. $24,000, what's the warranty of this thing in 2 years, 1 year?
Question, I will follow up with that.
Okay, so, I guess we already made a motion, second and motion pending, pending warranty and any other, what do you call it? Warranties that we are.
Subject to
Like coverage or
Oh, yeah.
something?
There you go, to material, warranty and material details? All right. Thank you. Motion carries. Next item, 6.5, discussion and possible action to remove all signers currently listed and assign new signers to the CDBG bank account with Lone Star National Bank.
Before you make the motion, sir, real quick, this is an old account we have with Lone Star that has old CDBG account, old signers that are no longer with the city. So your motion would be to remove those signers, but at the same time, you need to name new signers so we can take that to the bank. So if you want to identify members of the council.
How many people?
In your motion. At least 2, but I don't know if there's.
Areli,
Go with them 3, no, if you guys want, I know Mr. Hernandez is pretty available, I don't know if you might want to take up the role of, signing these checks, Ms. Rose is pretty late, and she was here.
We can, out of the Mayor Pro Tem and Mr. Hernandez because of the flexibility, could we do that? Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
and remove the old, do we have to say the names?
No.
I mean, I would suggest providing the names just for the record, just so you know, that the administration knows exactly who to add as far as the signers are concerned.
The names for the adding, yes, but the names for removing,
For removing, no.
Okay, so we got the names for adding and just remove the
the
old.
names, yeah, for the adding, yes, we need.
There it is.
but not-
All right. A motion to add the name, 2 names, we said Mr. Hernandez and Mr. Garcia. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next item, discussion of possible action to renew legal services agreement with city attorney and O'Hanlon, Demarath, and Castillo, staffed by Mr. Liu.
Yes, real quickly, Mayor, as we discussed in our workshop, this increase is
To closely reflect the amount of work put in on behalf of, for the city, the fee schedule has been updated, a monthly flat rate of $67.50, and it's still reflecting below average cost compared to neighboring
So
cities.
moved.
I'm
Go ahead.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Thank you all for your services and for
Yes.
staying below, you know, in a small little town
No,
like
no, no,
us,
it's
below
okay.
budget. Appreciate you guys. How much? I believe we went.
Yes, we're very,
What was the rate for
Very-
the record? 67?
very happy with the services, always, you know, attentive to any needs that we have. Anytime we needed additional services, your recommendations were excellent, so we really appreciate that.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Item 6.7, discussion and possible action, to adopt the ordinance 2023-10-0, amendment to Palm View Municipal Budget for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2023.
Mayor, on your desk, you should have the ordinance itself. It has a cover page like this, and then the actual budget in the back, in black and white, very detailed. So we have this color-coded one here for you that we're going to go through to summarize the changes. This is our year-end budget amendment, which is really why we're here today. We do have the department head directors here as well. So we're just going to go through the highlighted areas. You see our general revenues, our tax revenue overall, it increased to 77,000. Close to 80,000. We had a little increase in property taxes, a small decrease in sales tax, but we got new mixed beverage tax as well, and miscellaneous tax from auctions and from a settlement and some debt service carryover. So nonetheless, a positive increase in the amount of 78,000. Our franchise revenue for the ones listed there, you see that increased. The other highlighted part, 22,000. We go to the next section under administration. This is where it gets a little bit tricky. 252,000 in additional revenue, which sounds great, but if you look at the details, there's an insurance claim of 155,000. Of course, that was not expected, and so a lot of those revenues are going to go towards actual repairs and damages. So while it's new revenue, there's usually an expense tied to it, so it's not like, hey, we get to put that money in the bank.
On the sales tax, we're still the highest in this area?
Yes, we're still the highest in Precinct 3, aside from Mission, but Alton, Peñitas, La Jolla, and Sullivan, and we do really good. We should probably do it on the city side. We do it on the MDD side. We do sales tax reports quarterly to see how we're doing and how we compare and how we're doing it last year. We had really good growth the three prior years at 15%, and we thought, okay, it's going to be really hard to keep up with that consistent growth. So this last year, our growth was at about closer to 5-6%, which is more standard and more expected. So again, it was still a growth. It's an increase, and it's a reflection of our local economy here, the businesses that are going up, and the purchasing power that our local residents have. So going on here on public works, we move that to the sanitation account. So we go to the following page, police, total revenues, we decreased that by about 14,000. The biggest one was with the fines, but the others kind of just offset each other. Police grants, again, you see this, okay, we got 137,000 additional revenue, mainly from grants, which is great, but that's going to be offset by an expense increase of 137,000, so it's just going to kind of even out. Our permit fees actually came close to our goal. We increased it about $1,000. Permits and fees have increased steadily annually over the last 3-4 years as well, even through COVID. Our court costs also, we came very close to our target. We actually increased it, a positive impact of close to 29,000. On the fire side, we did go over this on the workshop. While the total impact was, we had to reduce our revenues by 40,000. The big one was the fire insurance billing and the training that we didn't do, but that luckily was offset by increased revenues with the ambulance. And I think Chief Alanis has already started working on the fire insurance to make sure that we have all the systems in place. And I think there was a certain case not too long ago where you were working with the insurance company. So now when we fire response to calls, especially on commercial businesses like the propane tank place, that we bill the insurance company. So I think that's been working out now, Chief. And I think we're set to have those revenues in the future so we don't lose them. So again, while there was a decrease in revenues, it was offset by additional revenues on the collection side.
That training, it usually happens annually, or why did we miss that training?
We're not having the certified trainer and then the facility to be able to do it. We were hoping to have our building here, but was there anything else, Chief, that you can speak to?
Okay. Okay. It requires like certain
Yeah, like
square footage?
Like the land we have in.
We used to have it at the substation upstairs, but now that's their dorm and that's where they
I
sleep,
see.
so we don't have like a
Okay.
training room. I think PD will sometimes try to use the chambers here to do some
But
of
these
that.
are not annual trainings that they need to, okay. so
This
they-
is for us training other people, really.
Okay,
Training our
for
own
us
as
to
well.
host a training.
but to host.
Okay, got it.
It was an opportunity to try to make additional revenues.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of it this year. Parks and Recs, I think we also talked about this in our workshops. Some of the registration fees were a little short, and the tournaments. And so I think we already spoke with Mr. Lugo. We're going to be working on increasing tournaments in this coming year. And we already increased that. We were very low on the permit, on the registration fees for the sports games, the leagues that we have. So now we're more on par, so we expect this to increase.
Is that for baseball only, or? for-
Baseball was the biggest, but I think we did, Ms. Areli, do you know we changed it across the board on the registration, or was it just for the baseball? Yeah.
One thing I can comment on that is if we're going to raise the registration, we also need to make sure that we're fully staffed throughout all games. I know I got several complaints that some of the games were, there wasn't somebody to referee, or they had to just pull somebody. I don't know, it was just not as prepared as they expected. So just keeping that in mind, if we're going to increase revenues or registration fees, that we're handling it appropriatly.
Yes, ma'am. City Secretary, again, small decrease. I was on the, which is a good thing. Well, I'm sorry, on the passport stuff. Youth Center, we had these program fees budgeted. You know, we took it very light on to get it started, so we went very low on the registration fees, and not a whole lot of participation. We're still trying to work with the school district to work something out. They can bus the kids since they're busing them to other areas close by, but that's been proved to be a challenge. So we had to, decrease those revenues. Again, on
Do
the,
we have the buses that are willing to drop them off here?
Well,
Or
we've
do we
requested
not
it.
have that yet?
We've requested, for our own buses or with the school district?
No, through the school district to
We've
make this a
requested it.
drop-off point.
We've requested it, and originally they said, they couldn't, the expenditure, I guess the expense for it. But, there are some buses that come here locally already, and they're dropping off kids here in the very close vicinity. So we're hoping, while you're already coming this way, maybe we can do something
Yeah.
for the youth club.
Yeah, that would be good. I think
EMS
if we
service.
pass out flyers, maybe to the residents. I know I would get several questions about that, just because daycare expenses are very high.
Yeah. Mr. Lugo's actually this week was going to be handing out flyers at the school districts and with the coaches and the sports programs and the school libraries as well.
But we do have like an age limit, right? Like, they can't be too young either.
I don't know what the age, Mr. Lugo unfortunately isn't here. He had something else, but yeah, there are age limits. It's still, fairly, at a young age up to 18. I don't know if it's maybe 4 to 18.
Because now with
but-
the pre-K 3 program, just keep in mind there's 3-year-olds there too, and some of them require diaper changing, and we need to just be clear on who is going to be allowed to take advantage of these services.
Okay, yes. Okay, on the EMS side, again, additional revenues, almost close to $100,000 that we increased. We are partnering with Peñitas, so we budgeted for the appropriate amount that Peñitas pays, but aside from that, the billing for the insurance companies proved to be, worthwhile. So again, we're increasing the revenues to end the year for another $100,000. So our total budget revenues, we increased it about $480,000. But again, a lot of that came with an expense, so it wasn't money that we just got to put in the bank, so to speak. We go down to the, and this is where it gets a little bit trickier too. We go down to the summary there. We took in $224,000 from our fund balance, and that's as well as actually $2.8 million for capital acquisition. So we increased our revenues by $3 million. Our total revenue is really by $3.5 million. It's like, oh, cool, that sounds great. Well, what we're doing here is, as you recall, we took out money, in prior years, like last year or prior. That money literally sat in the bank, but we're waiting for 12 months for a trash truck to get here. We're not going to pay it until it comes in. So, while it's encumbered, we haven't realized that actual expense. So last year, it looked like we had these great revenues and no expenses. And then this year, now we don't have that revenue. We have the expense because we're paying close to $2 million for all the trucks that have come in the last 6 months. So we need to do a transfer from the prior, and it's booked as a revenue, and then it's going to be offset by an expense. So how did we do? We'd like to see, right? Without all that, we'll see it at the end of the report here. So again, our total revenues here got increased by about 3.3 million because of those transfers. If we go to the following page, we're going to jump into the expenditures. This is a summary. We actually increased our expenditures by about 330,000. But then you go to the capital, which is the middle section. A lot of that, again, for the purchase of those trucks that we were talking about. So we had to increase our expenditures by 3.1 million. So there goes all those revenues, right? In the end, the surplus or deficit was about 47,000. So we ended with a surplus of 47,000 once all those things were balanced, which is still a good way to end the year. Again, and especially considering what we were able to accomplish during the year. Another thing is that's not the end of it. As we go through, we won't go too much into detail into the rest, but what you'll start to see as you see the breakdown by every department, you're going to see an entry highlighted for personnel expenditures. And for example, PD, we budgeted, if we go to page, PD, Public Works, Police, page 6 of 9, you'll see the first line for PD is salaries, which is our biggest, expense on the salary side. We budgeted, close to 2.2 million with salaries and fringe, but throughout we know we had vacancies. We know that there was patrol officers that were vacant that we were trying to recruit, so we didn't pay that full amount. It's going to actually be less. It's actually going to be, I think we're going to save about, close to $200,000 in salaries, just in PD alone, that we didn't pay. We're not going to reduce our budget. We're not going to change our amendment. It stays like that, but when the auditor comes and does his audit, okay, this is what you budgeted for, this is what you actually spent, hey, you actually did pretty good. You're going to save $200,000 there. The other one, same thing with fire. Fire is the second biggest department, fire and EMS, and we're going to save probably close to $100,000 is there as well, because we had a challenge hiring paramedics for a while, and we were compensating by doing overtime, and we were short-staffed. So between those two alone, we're talking about close to $300,000 budgeted, not expensed. When they do the audit.
With the raises that we gave?
Yes, even with the raise.
Okay.
Again, in the current budget year, even with all that, so they're going to see, hey, you didn't spend everything that you budgeted for. Where did those 300,000 go? It went into our general fund. It went into our reserves. So that's going to be very positive, and I think we've been able to accomplish that over the last couple of years. So the rest of the pages have them in more detail. They're highlighted with special notes to the side. We do have the department heads here as well. If anybody has any questions, we can address them. But again, while this is very good, we'll wait for our audit to really show us, hopefully another successful audit.
So that, we're good?
Yes, unless you have any questions for the
All right,
department heads.
no? No, you have any questions? How's Palmview, sir?
So advisor's going to come up here in a minute, and we can drill him a little bit as well.
That was item 6.7. I want to make a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Motion and a second. Any other questions? Thank you for the brief, a good long brief, but informative brief. Any other questions? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 6.8, consideration and action to approve a preliminary plan finance for the City of Palmview tax note, series 2023.
We're going to call on our financial advisor, David Gonzalez, with your permission.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm going to pass out a PowerPoint presentation to everybody. We'll go over a couple of slides. I'm not going to spend too much time on all the slides. I'm just going to stick to the main point.
Update, this is in relation to the purchase that we're going to make for that additional property that's going to house our sanitation equipment, all the trucks, our planning and zoning department, even our finance department. We're going to pay half of that with CO money that we have left over due to savings, and then the difference we're going to finance through a note, and David's going to give us the information on that.
Good evening. The presentation I passed out, if you please open up to page number 2, this just gives you a list of the debt that the city has issued over the last 5 years or so. This is just a list of what was originally issued, what the current debt is. If you jump over to the next page, on page number 3, this is just a fancy little chart just to give you an idea of what the average debt service is for the city of Palmview every year. So you're right at about $1 million total up until 2026. It's going to drop down to about $750,000. if you look over on the next page, this is just the preliminary working group team members for the tax notes that we're here to discuss today. We have City of Palmview, your financial advisor, your bond counsel, your placement agent, and then currently, we don't know who the purchaser is. That's basically what we're here to talk about. If you turn over to the next page, page number 5, what we're looking at right now, after having discussions with Mr. Leo the last couple of weeks, we're looking at a tax note, which is a 7-year note, 7-year commitment. We're looking at an amount of about $600,000. If you look on the third line from the bottom up, the average, your debt service, your estimated debt service on this loan would be about $108,000 a year. The total principal and interest for this would be $730,167, and you're looking at an estimated true interest cost, the very last line there, about 5.5%. Now, we've done several of these in the last 2-3 months. We're actually looking at something closer to about 4.5%, 4.25%, but we want to be conservative in what we're presenting. But we do expect something with a 4 in front of it, not a 5.
We expect the dollar amount to be less. We went a little bit higher just to make sure that we had enough. If we're gonna have to make improvements to the building and do the, some of the design work that the engineers did here, we're gonna be able to apply it over there. If we need to do a wash bay for these trucks that we know are gonna get pretty dirty. So we'll have some wiggle room there as well, but we don't expect it to be that to the full amount.
Right, and so today, the item at hand is basically, if the council moves forward on this, you're giving us the green light to go talk to banks, prepare a term sheet, send it out to banks. We send it out to about 60 banks nationwide. There's national banks, regional banks, and even some local banks. So we'll send that out. We'll request bids to be in before you all have your next, I think it's the 3rd week in October is your next regular scheduled meeting. At that meeting, we'll present the rates, and at that meeting, y'all can decide if y'all want to move forward or if y'all don't want to move forward.
So our current debt is the 5 million? Is that the number?
Are you looking at page number 2 or?
Yes, number 2.
Yeah, so currently, on the city side, yes, you're looking at, the existing debt right now is $5,997,000, correct?
So then we would add
You would add about,
the 730,000?
No.
Or the
600.
500, okay.
600.
Right now it's 6, but it'll probably be less.
It would be less space.
right.
Okay.
And that number, we just got, the message, I guess, yesterday, and we just switched that up for y'all right away. We wanted to see it a little bit higher for presentation purposes.
But I agree on the conservative side, just in
Right.
case we do need those improvements
Oh, yeah.
at the building.
And one thing that we had looked at is when we compare ourselves, okay, how much of our tax rate is for M&O, maintenance operations, how much is it for INS, which is a debt service, and the percentage of it, I think maybe 10 or 11 of a pennies of our tax rate goes towards debt service. So we compared it to other cities, and where we high or low, and we're also on the lower side. Other cities could have a bigger percentage of their tax rate going towards debt. So again, still trying to. Again, we don't want to overextend ourselves with debt, but I think we've done a good job of balancing that out and balancing it with the needs of the city, which are great in terms of, the work, the amount of work that we want to get done. In particular, the street, we know those street paving projects can cost, those drainage projects can cost. So the investment that we've been able to do, I think we're still good in terms of our debt ratios.
Move for approval.
I second.
Thank you. Thank you, Commission. We got a motion, a second. Any other questions? All right, so I will be seeing you in a few weeks.
We'll be back in about 3 weeks.
3 weeks. All
Mayor,
right,
real
thank
quick, if you don't mind, because you asked, Dave and I have talked about this. So when you see this and other lenders and the banks look at Palmview, they see our financial, they see our audits over the last 4 years. We haven't had a bond rating because we didn't qualify for one. What's the impression that they're getting regarding Palmview now?
Yes, good point. There's 2 points on that. One of the things I want to commend all of you on is that you all got your audit done a lot sooner than a lot of the other cities. There's a lot of cities out there that still haven't gotten their fiscal year 22 audit done. So when we do this reporting for all cities, county school districts, and you all were one of the first ones to have your audit done, and it's like, yeah, they're done. They're moving, and a lot of the larger cities in the Rio Grande Valley don't have that audit done yet. So congratulations on that. The second point, as Mr. Leo mentioned, in prior years, your property values really were not at levels where it would make sense to go into the open market and sell bonds and go to Standard & Poor's, Moody's, Fitch, these rating agencies that sell bonds that way. Lately, with what's happened to your finances, the growth in your property values, the growth in everything else, I was telling Mr. Leo, you guys are right in line now with all the other cities down here that utilize the open market and use Standard & Poor's, Fitch, Moody's, and sell bonds in the open market. So historically, you guys have generally had to go to banks and do what they call private placement, when you get loans from banks. Now, if you all want to access the open market, you all can do that now, given how much you all have grown, how fiscally responsible you all have been, all those high points that you all just talked about here in the last 30, 45 minutes. That's the kind of stuff they like to hear. And I think you all would have a very favorable rating if you all access the market going forward at any point.
And what would we need to do that? Or how do we move forward?
That would
in
be
doing that?
when you all have a list of projects that are in the range of 3 million or 4 million or 5 million or something like that. But if it's, you know, right now we're talking about 500,000. If it's 500,000, you don't want to access the open market for that because there's all these additional costs. It's just unnecessary. You're better off, it's cheaper to just go to a bank, get a private placement, and get it done that way. But when you have a larger CIP that you want to finance, I think that's a real option for y'all going forward. And the advantage of that is when you go into the open market, you can go out 20, 25, 30 years. Whereas ahorita, when you go to banks, they max you out at 15 years. You can't go more than 15 years. And right now, generally, it's like 10 to 12 years.
Would that be like the fire station that we want to?
That would be a good example. When the time comes, we're going to look at that as an option. We're still banking on USDA because USDA on these facilities loan lets you go out 40 years, which, you know, will really reduce your payment and at a lower interest rate. But we're still going to do our due diligence, have David look at it, see what he projects out there in the market, and see how, you know, he could compare. But yeah, that's going to be anywhere from an $8 million project on up.
That would definitely make more sense in the open market. I think there'll be favorable ratings and favorable terms.
Yeah, well, I think, we couldn't do it without your help. I mean, we really appreciate what you've done for us.
No,
You-
it's a
you
pleasure
know,
working with you. I assure you that.
We're up there with the big boys and girls now, huh?
That's right.
I'm glad you said girls.
I remember at one time, when I
Write a
first came in, it was 2018, we were speaking in a different language at that time because our lack of opportunities.
Right.
But ever since then, or like I said, thank you, Mike, and the Finance Department for the audits. They have been favorable and be able to do it fast. And that was some of the initiatives because of that, we've gotten grants. Because of that, we've gotten opportunities for us to invest in bigger projects. As I can see here, we're 2023, almost 2024, and in about 2026, which our debt will decrease dramatically, which means that it's never going to be a point where our debt is never going to be zero, but it's an opportunity for us to increase more resources because we want the debt to be a little bit higher because the more funds we have in our end, the more services we can provide for our community.
Revolving.
So in 2 years, it'll drop by from $1.2 million to 700,000, like you said, I see here in the chart. So that means that, no, we don't want to do it. We still want to keep it at $1 million, but that means an opportunity for us to get more funds for our services, for our community as well.
Yeah, Mr. Ed, we couldn't do it. Michael, good job, administration.
So that's, it's getting there. Thank you so much for that.
You're growing.
Our debt capacity,
Yeah.
that's a very good point, our debt capacity.
And I think as long as we're showing that there is growth, we are producing more services to our community, you know, I think they're okay with whatever tax rate we do propose is beneficial for us. So I think that speaks volumes as well.
Yeah. We wish we had control over the streets, but there'd be more people to
Con
fix the
tiempo, con
streets.
tiempo. One thing I can attest to is these conferences that we go to, every city is in the same situation with the streets, repairing their streets, statewide. I would even venture to say nationwide, but yeah, definitely statewide, maintaining the streets
So what is it, maybe 3 streets left?
is
95?
a problem across the board. So we're working.
And we're paving the street right now as we speak. So Business Center, it's underway. It's got started today,
I
so
saw that today.
But I'm talking about like 495.
Yeah, well, that's,
Oh, it's
that's
not, yes, yes.
2024.
That's a big one.
Beyond our control.
So the street's damaged by that.
Quiere
Gonzalez, thank you so much.
compartir
Thank you so
la
much.
reunión.
That was a pleasure.
For the record, we need a, do I had a motion, I had a second. Any other questions? Good questions, good topics. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries.
And can we clarify what purchase was for? I don't know if did we ever announce that or?
A little bit in the
share
beginning,
that?
but yeah, again, to summarize, the city's looking to purchase a facility here nearby. It's a warehouse-ready park, that's got parking, a structure ready, garage ready.
We want to take it back a little more, what we were gonna do.
Oh, yeah.
With more money, and then this opportunity, so.
So going back over a year ago, once the council made the commitment, we're going to do the trash services. Okay, so we know we're going to need about 5 or 6 trucks, multiple cans and so forth. Where are we going to store everything? So looking at our existing property, like behind City Hall, we have a fair amount of space, but it would take a vast amount of improvements. So the engineers did an analysis and they did some preliminary cost estimates, and they said you're going to need about close to $400,000 to extend your bays in the back, to add your wash bay, to do the drainage improvements, to put more concrete, because these trucks are extremely heavy. You can't have them on caliche or even pavement. They need concrete. So it was $400,000, and then 2-3 months ago, out of the blue, another opportunity came out that a local business owner was selling property here close by that kind of fit our needs. Warehouse ready, it's got the structures in the back, all cemented, ready to go, has an empty lot behind it to do our further work, and then it even has office space in the front. So we thought, and it was going to be, you know, a little over $700,000.
Overcrowded here with our public works,
Oh, yeah.
planning department.
So why put $400,000 in improvements when you can get an investment and an asset, a building for $750,000? So again, with the office space that it's going to have, it's going to be extremely beneficial. We're going to be able to free up some space here as well. And you know, we had our planning and zoning planning on going to a portable building that we got from the school district that we renovated. And we didn't have a real housing for the library. Said, okay, we put planning and zoning at this facility. Now we got the library facility. So all these things lined up extremely well. So we've been letting the public know we're going to be opening the library very, very soon. As a matter of fact, that portable building remodeled looks really, really nice. So again, all these things lined up, and it was a question of being, you know, making smart decisions with the investment that we're going to make. So what we're doing for this particular issue, we have some money saved, put away with CO funds, maybe about $400,000, give or take. So we're going to use that to purchase the building for the down, so about half of it. The remaining balance of about another $350 with improvements, $400,000. We're talking about the note that Mr. David Gonzalez was presented here today.
Okay, thank you for that.
Awesome. Good, very well said, Mr. Leo. Great job. And the rest of it, too. Item 6.9, consideration and adoption of a resolution establishing the intention of reimbursement for the prior lawful expenditure of funds from the proceeds of tax-exempt obligations.
Mayor, real quickly here, for this item related to the same issuance, we told David Gonzalez and his bond counsel, look, we need to move quickly on this property. We want to get in there quickly. We don't have to wait for the financing and for all these things to do. So what we've done in other projects and with other entities is we do what's called a reimbursement resolution that says, he'll explain it, but basically, if we approve this, they won't hold us up. We don't have to wait for all this process to take place. We can use our own general fund reserves, and thank goodness that we have reserves. We use it in advance, so when the time comes to close, we are ready to close on the property. Meanwhile, David and his team do what they need to do. They do the issuance, we get the money, and then we put it right back into our general fund. But David, if you want.
I can say it better, sir.
Did you practice this?
Yeah, so the idea is to come back in the meeting in October with final rates. We would close in late November. Late November, you would receive the funds to begin purchasing the property and doing all the improvements. What this agenda item allows you to do, it allows you to start using the general fund or other available funds today. And then when those monies come in November, you can reimburse your general fund or any of the other, wherever you pull that money from, you can reimburse that. So this is just, that's all this allows you to do.
It's nice to have that option, you know? Before, I don't think we were having that discussion, to have that option to saying we had to wait for you. We had to wait for you until then, and then have that. So that's nice option to have, and I'll make a motion.
Wait,
So
is
that's
it
the point here.
guaranteed
That's my
that it's gonna
question.
go
Consideration
through?
and
Now
adoption.
I'm like worried.
So do we vote on this? consideration?
This is an action item. yes.
So
It's an action
a
item.
motion?
Yeah, I'm
I need
making
a
motion.
second.
Y si no pasa, J.O., ¿lo vas a pagar tú? ¿Quién lo va a pagar?
Esperar otros cuantos meses. I have a second.
Bueno, si no, les cobramos a ellos dos.
Any questions?
No.
For the record, because that's a legitimate question, I think we would probably, when the time comes and we're gonna make the expenditure, we would circle back and say, hey, how are things looking? Are we good to go? Can you give us any information? Because we're talking about at least another month before we actually close. By then, you would have already worked into it. You should have already talked to some lenders. You said, hey, we've got some offers, we've got some bids, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, so on page 5 of the presentation, I think it was page 5 before, we had a placement agent, FHN. They will start having those discussions with the most aggressive banks, and we'll have a pretty good idea who are gonna be the banks that are gonna bid on this. They'll be requesting some additional financial information from the city. We'll be working through all of that. So we'll have a pretty good idea, which banks will bid way earlier than you actually receive bids.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Okay.
if we sense any kind of issue, we'll definitely communicate that to Mr. Leo and say, well, you know what, let's not pull anything out just yet. So
Okay.
we'll communicate that with Mr. Leo after we go through the process.
Okay.
And ultimately, this is a good point, very good discussion. This is an investment for the city, so, you know, we've been able to purchase this property here across and build on it, right? And we got some businesses, we got an urgent care hospital and other businesses looking at coming in, and we've been able to have funds to now buy this other property, which is going back to our growth and our services and growing. So it's gonna be a win-win, and here we talk about 30 years down the road or 40 years with USDA, it takes money to make money, right? And we're looking at the 10 acres over there also on the south side of the expressway over there on 492 to also expand our services. So it's all good, all good.
Can we get an update on that for the grant that was submitted, right, in August?
For the 10-acre
Yes.
property, we submitted a letter of intent to the Valley Baptist Foundation for the park on the eastern
Yes.
part of the 10 acres over there. We have preliminary meetings with them, very interested, very excited. So we're waiting on a response on that letter of intent. They'll come back and hopefully say, you know what, we like what you're pitching, we like the project. That's an all-inclusive park, very, healthy, goes to the health of our community, walking trails. Please apply for the grant, and we hope to get that notice, actually right around the corner, I think by next month. They'll say, submit your full grant proposal.
Great, great.
We had a motion, a second. Thank you for the questions.
Yes,
that were
thank you.
answered. All in favor signify by saying
Aye.
aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Okay, item 7, we'll be going into executive session at, first let me get a motion to go into
I'll make the
executive
motion to
session.
go
I'll
to
second.
executive session.
Motion and a second, and we're gonna go pursuant codes 551074, 072, and 071.
Just ask for Ms. Irma Garza. And we hope to see everybody out there. We're going to be here at the Palmview Park at 8 in the morning to register, and Yeah, we start registration at 8. The walk usually starts around 9. So we'll see you here Saturday morning. Wear yellow.
Thank you.
Thank
And,
you.
oh, I'm sorry.
No, that was
Can
it.
we sprint it?
Can you sprint it? Of course. We're just not responsible for any
I
injuries.
said
I'm kidding.
7:19, I didn't adjourn, but at
We'll
7:21,
have ambulance ready.